I'm here at ICANN63 in Barcelona, Spain, with Krista Papac, ICANN's complaints officer, to get a better understanding of the ICANN complaints department. Krista, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, James. It's my pleasure to be here.
So let's take a step back for a minute. The complaints department, it's relatively new. What was the impetus behind creating it?
It is new. The complaints department was established about 1.5 years ago, and the impetus behind it was to create a centralized location where people who have issues with the organization could submit a complaint, make it easy for them to let us know that something isn't working correctly. Then also to create a department that had a functional responsibility to make sure those complaints were heard, researched, and resolved appropriately and in a transparent fashion.
So what kind of complaints does your department handle? When should someone reach out to you, contractual compliance, or the ombudsman?
The complaints that we handle are about the ICANN organization, and I find it helpful to provide examples. So if a process isn't working correctly or appears to be completely broken, if there's missed timelines or deadlines that continue to happen again and again, they don't ever seem to get resolved, or situations where a community member feels that they're not receiving an adequate level of support from the organization. Whereas contractual compliance receives complaints about registries and registrars from people who feel like they may not be abiding by their contracts that they have with ICANN. So again, those complaints aren't about the organization, they're about contracted parties. And then lastly, the ombudsman handles complaints from community members regarding unfairness. So if a community member feels they're being treated unfairly by an ICANN staff member or org member, by a board member, or even by each other, those types of complaints go to the ombudsman.
So what kind of complaints have you seen thus far?
So far we've seen basically two types of complaints. Ones that lead to improvements by the ICANN organization, and the second bucket is about complaints that come in where ICANN's actually not empowered to do anything. So of the complaints we've received so far, about 65% of them have actually resulted in improvements inside the organization, which has been great. Some of those improvements are small tweaks to a process or procedure, and other ones actually result in large projects that get implemented over time to correct whatever the deficiency is. The second bucket, where the complaints are things that ICANN's not empowered to resolve, we do respond to those complaints. We explain why the organization is not empowered to resolve their issue, and explain about the governance model and how participating is a way to help influence the changes they're requesting. And an example of one of those would be a request for ICANN to modify a consensus policy, for instance, which of course we are not empowered to do.
So let's say I want to file a complaint. I'm not really sure where to go. Where do I start?
It's really easy. We have a web page on the ICANN website, icann.org/complaints-office. On that web page at the top is a place where you just click the submit button, submit a complaint, you answer some questions about your name and your email address, tell us what your issue is, and it comes straight to the complaints office to be looked at. The other way that you can do it is just to email complaints@icann.org with what the issue is, and we'll take it from there.
Krista, this has been incredibly informative. Thank you again so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.